Hi guys, so former Labour leader Ed Miliband appeared on Sky News on Sunday where he seemed to be calling for trade deals to be rewritten. Now Boris Johnson and his government have been attempting to sign as many trade deals as possible post-Brexit in order to convince voters that they made the right choice to leave the European Union in 2016, but also that they were right to vote to get Brexit done back in 2019. While Keir Starmer rejected the idea of rejoining the European Union, could a Labour government be open to undoing the trade deals that are currently on the table with countries like Australia? Let's hear what Ed had to say.
There is a wider lesson here, though, which is we need to do more to put pressure on all of the big emitters, frankly. That includes India, that includes China, it includes countries like Australia, Trevor. You know, we're doing a trade deal with Australia, and we've agreed to drop the Paris temperature commitments from the trade deal. Now, Australia is a real laggard on climate. They've got a net zero target to get to zero emissions in 2050, but it's not really a proper plan. And they've got 2030 targets that, if every country was doing what they're doing, would take us to 4 degrees of warming. Now, that would be catastrophic for the world if we ended up in that position. So I think part of the lesson of what's going to be different in the next 12 months compared to the last 12 months is that for all countries, the climate policy can't sit on the side of their other approaches, of their other policies. It's got to be at the heart of what we do. We should be rewriting that Australian trade deal. We should be saying to Australia, look, I'm afraid if you want to be part of the Club of Nations, if you want a trade deal with us, then you've got to step up. And you know, I think it's really important that we can't leave Glasgow. Glasgow was modest progress. It wasn't the transformation we needed, but we can't leave Glasgow and if you like, step back. The fight to really keep 1.5 alive starts here in the run-up to COP27.
So I just want to focus on what he said here about the trade deals, and I think this is extremely interesting. So would the Labour Party be willing to reopen these trade deals? And I think if that was the case, this would be pointing the direction of Labour getting the ball rolling to rejoining the European Union. Because if they're willing to reopen trade deals, say this trade deal with Australia is terrible, this trade deal with New Zealand is terrible, this trade deal with Japan is terrible, we want to negotiate something better. Now, of course, it takes time, it takes effort. It's not something that would happen overnight, but it could be the case that the Labour Party want to go in the opposite direction of the Conservatives. Now, remember, Boris Johnson signed these trade deals to demonstrate to the public that Brexit is a success. Obviously, he didn't really negotiate. He compromised on everything, pretty much. Australia, New Zealand, in particular, done pretty well out of these trade deals. Of course, they're not completely signed off yet, but from what we can see, the benefactors are Australia and New Zealand. Britain is not really benefiting in any way from this, but it's a political deal. It's not an economic deal. It's something for the Brexiteers in Boris Johnson's government to sell to the public. Look, we've signed all these trade deals. Remember, people told us we wouldn't be able to sign any trade deals. Yes, you can sign trade deals, but they need to convince the public that Brexit is a success. So if Ed Miliband and the Labour Party are hinting or suggesting that they would reopen the trade deals and they would tie it to, for example, dealing with climate change, this is to be welcomed. We will have to see when Labour get into power, though, and it would have to be a strong Labour government. We'd need to see a massive swing away from the Conservatives. In regards to that, there are recent polling points that points to a Labour win. Labour is leading the Conservatives by a small margin at the moment. Boris Johnson is not very popular at the moment, and he's getting even less popular by the day. This was one poll. It's not a trend yet, but many pollsters are saying we need to wait and see. Give it another couple of weeks, another month, and if it's continuing in this way, then it's going to be extremely worrying for the Conservatives and Boris Johnson in particular. But it is welcoming that the Labour Party would be willing to go back to the negotiating table and negotiate hopefully something better for Britain, but also something better in regards to the climate. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.